Welcome to Clinician Voice, the podcast where we amplify the perspectives of nurses, physicians, and allied health professionals shaping the future of healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. Robin Geiger, and I'm delighted to have with me Delanor Manson, a distinguished leader with multifaceted career in nursing, healthcare administration, and the arts. As the CEO of the Kentucky Nurses Association, the Kentucky Nurses Foundation, and the Kentucky Nurses Action Coalition, Delanor has been a formidable advocate for the nurses across the Commonwealth. Her leadership spans from serving as Deputy Secretary for the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services to achieving the rank of captain in the U.S. Navy. And that's something. Beyond her healthcare contributions, she's also a celebrated jewelry designer and owner of the Koi Gallery. Look at that. Welcome. Join me in welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm glad that you're here. And a lot of people would ask, how do you know her? They always ask me, how did you come across these A-listers? What's happening? So I just wanted to share that with our listeners. And I had the pleasure of speaking at the 2024 Kentucky Nurses Annual Conference. I loved every minute of it. I was just in awe of you and your team, how welcoming you were, how compassionate you were about the nursing profession in general. And when it comes to your gala, you just did not disappoint. You rolled out the red carpet. Everyone they were decked to the nines. They looked amazing. And I can't wait for this year. I know it's going to be amazing. So I will be returning this year. And those of you who were not able to participate, you should definitely get yourself a ticket. So without ado, let's start by focusing on your nursing journey. What inspired you to go into healthcare? And how has your diverse experiences from military service to healthcare leadership, how has that shaped your perspective on nursing?
Well, Robin, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be on the podcast with you. But I would like to say that I was a reluctant nurse. Most of the nurses that I have as colleagues tell me things like, I always wanted to be a nurse. This has always been something that I just knew I had to do. I'm not one of those. On the other hand, nursing was not on my radar. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be like Perry Mason. But my grandmother worked for the General Hospital in Louisville as a nursing assistant. And she would come home and she would tell me about these incredible things that nurses did. And she said, you could be one of those, She couldn't, because at that time, very few Black women had the opportunity to go to nursing school. But she kept telling me, this is what you should do. Well, I kept telling her, I don't like blood. I'm not doing that. But when she died, I thought, maybe I could. And I went to University of Kentucky. And that in itself was a journey. There were 5 African Americans in that class. Not all of us graduated, most of us didn't. But what I learned in my first rotation of going to the hospitals to take care of patients is I was observing nurses in their problem solving and how they identified, who needed what when. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I could never do that. They are so incredibly smart and agile and flexible. But what I saw in that view was they were taking care of everyone, patients, families, doctors, but they weren't taking care of themselves or each other. And so I decided that I know I'm a leader. I can do that. I can be the leader for nurses. I can take care of nurses because nobody else is doing that. And so I kind of made that my focus. I knew I had to get through nursing school in order to be the leader, but my focus was going to be at every aspect of my career was to take care of nurses. And that's what I've done for greater than 45 years is take care of them in every role that I've been in.
That's amazing. As a CEO of Kentucky Nurse Association, What is your vision, your overarching vision for the organization? You have three pillars, three different major arms that you are overseeing for the state of Kentucky. So what are you hoping to achieve?
Like many states, and I belong to
Mhm.
the Kentucky Nurses Association as part of the American Nurses Association. We are partners, and so I have the luxury of meeting with my colleagues in other states, and we are having similar challenges. Um, my overall vision for the Kentucky Nurses Association is that we will be the voice of every nurse in the state, and we will be the organization that helps them move the profession forward. And we are on the right track. We are not there yet, but we are on the right track. I mean, we've been in existence since 1906, one of the oldest nursing associations in the country. And since 1906, we've been involved in advocacy, legislation, scope of practice. I mean, we've really been engaged. But there's so much more for us to do. And the KNA is stepping up, and we are doing it little by little, but we're getting it done.
That's amazing. And I have to say, I heard everything you said in that first question, and you touched on some cultural things there that are, really sensitive topics that, I want to get into a little bit more because I remember being one of five out of maybe 70 nurses, one of five Black nurses in my nursing school, and not all of us made it, not all of us graduated, and just always being like one of five, one of four, but pushing forward, pushing hard, whether it's in a job or an association or a committee. Um, I just wanted to know, what are you doing within your umbrella w- to meet the evolving needs of this climate change, this cultural change, some of the challenges that we're seeing currently out there in the world that the nurses are being forced into dealing with. What do you see the association doing to support that change?
Well, I have to start with our basic commitments,
Mhm.
the ANA Code of Ethics, our mission, vision, and values for the Kentucky Nurses Association. Before it became a buzzword, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the
Yeah,
KNA
yeah.
was already the KNA was already leading the way.
Hmm.
However, in 2020, we stepped up our game.
Okay.
We made a commitment to be more intentional about our efforts. And that included recruiting um, individuals from all over the state, all age groups, those with disabilities, those with
Hmm.
different professional direction in nursing,
Right.
and those with different ethnicities to be an active part of the KNA and to help us address the nursing shortage, to address our biases that may impact patient outcomes. So this was an intentional, we developed a plan. And I have to tell you,
Hmm.
we've done everything on the plan.
I love it.
And we are not stopping. I have been asked by our members if we will stay committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an easy answer, but I like to preface it by demonstrating or discussing our foundation. You see, this isn't new for us. What's new for us is the stepped up intentionality to
Exactly.
demonstrate the
Right.
importance of, first of all, every human being has bias. In fact, I remember my dog when I was a kid, he had, but the key is that biases are real and part of
Right.
everyday life. And the failure
Hmm.
to accept that is kind of akin to failing to accept that we need air to breathe.
Right.
They exist. So, what are you
Hmm.
going to do with that? And research has shown that those individuals who are not aware of their biases are not at the top of their game. And what I mean by that is, if they are not aware of their biases, they are unaware of maybe missed opportunities to increase patient outcomes, missed
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to improve the workforce,
Mm-hmm.
missed opportunities to do the research that will guide us to the next level, missed opportunities. And so
Oh, yes.
this knowledge of our biases is crucial for the profession and crucial for healthcare. So
I
that's what we're
agree.
doing. And we're doing classes.
Mm-hmm.
We have actually, we participated with the Kentucky Board of Nursing. And we were, I think, the only state that was able to get the Board of Nursing to recognize that these biases were really important. We wrote a proposal, they accepted it, and they made it
Wow.
mandatory for every nurse in the state to take a class on implicit bias because it's that.
It's impactful.
The Board of
Absolutely.
Nursing was forward thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to tell you that after several legislators complained about implicit bias as racism, implicit bias, you may be a racist if you have implicit bias, but having implicit bias does not make you a racist. Having implicit bias makes you a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So after the little firestorm, the Kentucky Board of Nursing decided that it was no longer mandatory, recommended, but no longer mandatory. We, on the other hand, we developed the course. We developed
Mm-hmm.
a course on implicit bias to meet the mandatory requirements for the Kentucky Board of Nursing. And we've had over 50,000 nurses to take it from all over the world. And the evaluations have been phenomenal. When I say all over the world, I mean globally. We're very proud of that. And they continue to take it, even though it's not mandatory.
That's important. That wow, you've done a lot of work in this area, and you and I, we've had some conversations. There's definitely work to be done in every area within healthcare, um, but you said a lot of things that really struck a nerve, and I know that it will be resonant with our audience. They'll be able to see just some pieces of challenge that they've had on their own individual right with regard to exclusivity, and inclusivity, but the buzzwords that you mentioned. But you have an upcoming leadership and advocacy conference. And I know you have some great speakers lined up, some A-listers. Katie Boston Larry, she's one of my close friends. She's going to be amazing. She always is.
She
She's one
always
of the
is.
speakers. So what are some of the key themes and objectives for this year's conference that you might be focusing on? Does it overlap with some of the discussion that we talked about on cultural climate?
Absolutely. If it's okay, I'd like to go back to one other thing
Absolutely.
about the cultural climate, and that is
Mhm.
to give a shout out
Yeah.
to the Commission on Racism
Mm.
that came together to
Mhm.
look at our history in nursing
Mhm.
and what we are currently doing and what we need to do for the future. The commission was made up of nurses from so many nursing organizations, with ANA being part of the um, foundation for that commission on racism. So I just wanted to call them out, say that they did an
Absolutely.
incredible job. And for any nurse who has not read the commission's report, it will enhance your knowledge and
Mm.
foundational intentionality, I hope, for
Mhm.
nursing if you will take to heart, ask more questions, be part of the solution. Now, back to my conference. My conference is on is on May the 23rd. It's at Western
Mhm.
Kentucky University. It will be a hybrid
Mhm.
because our state is wide. And one of the things that we have committed to is that inclusivity, and that includes geography. So when
Right.
we have something in the West The East has a hard time getting there. So if we do a hybrid, we can get everyone. So our focus this year, as it always is, we have two conferences a year. One is on leadership and advocacy, and the other is our annual conference, and we develop a new theme every year. But the leadership and advocacy conference focuses on how nurses can engage using their leadership to advocate for not just patients, but healthcare in general and nurses. So this year, as you mentioned, we have Katie Boston Leary, and I am so excited that I was able to entice her to come to Kentucky. She is a superstar, and she is our keynote, and she will be speaking to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and how it impacts the workforce. And she will also speak to the intentionality and the efforts of intentionality to get the job done. So I'm anticipating goosebumps, just goosebumps when she is speaking. I heard her speak at the Health Equity Summit in February. She was the major convener of the Health Equity Summit, and it was phenomenal. And actually, I was shocked that you weren't there because your colleagues, so many of the A-listers that you communicate with and run in that circle of experts were there.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I got a lot of, where are you? Why aren't you here? Yes. A lot of overlap in different speaking engagements and work. I tell you, I did not want to miss it. But I'm excited for this one with her, and I'm excited that it's a hybrid. It's definitely, she's all about business, and she's all about being straight and honest with people, and making sure that she's elevating a true voice. And that's why I like listening to her speak. And so are you. She was on this very same podcast. And I've been able to bond with her in just different conferences. So you're in for a treat for sure. And then I'd also like to just kind of highlight your annual conference that's coming up this year. And then, just what does that look like? It's coming soon.
Yes, it is soon. The annual conference is November the 14th. On November the 13th, we'll have the gala. And we are doing something exceptional with the gala this year. Last year was our first gala, and we were not sure if it was going to be a success. It was an over-the-top success, so much so that the membership says, let's go again and again and again. But this year, we are going to be focusing on legacy. So we'll be honoring nurses who have died during the year. We will do our awards. We have 6 awards that we give out every year.
Okay.
But the addition will be our Hall of Fame. We realize that there have been incredible nurses in the state of Kentucky whose shoulders we all stand if we practice in Kentucky. We want to honor. So we're going to have a Hall of Fame. So hopefully you'll be there for us.
I will. I will be there at your annual gala and the conference. I'm looking forward to seeing that and to seeing you and your team. They were amazing. So that's going to be great. And I know you'll get to speak on some of these. We'll be able to touch on some of these recent challenges that are just so huge for frontline nurses. I'd like to shift back, if we could, just for a moment, to your career. And that's all the things that you're doing to support nurses. I want to know how the Kentucky Nurses Foundation and how the Action Coalition, how do they kind of bond together into support of nurses in Kentucky?
We are very fortunate. First of all, our foundation has been in existence since 1975. Certainly not as long as the association, but what they've been able to do in the time that they have existed is phenomenal. We provide scholarships, grants, research grants, and we really encourage nurses to participate in research. We have something that is novel, and that is a food pantry for food insecurity for nursing students and nurses. And they don't have to qualify for it. If they ask
Mm.
us and we have the money, they're going to get it. We also do something called the Nightingale Tribute. So when a nurse dies, we go to wherever they are and we
Wow.
perform a Nightingale tribute where we read a poem and we honor the family and thank them for supporting our colleague who has passed on. So that's the foundation. The foundation is focused on philanthropy, basically, on how we can raise money to give it away to to students and nurses who need it. The Nurses Action Coalition looks at workforce. Do we have enough nurses? Are they in the right places? Are they doing the right jobs? Are they in the right roles? And so we analyze the data every year from the Board of Nursing, and we include US Census data and education data, and we look at where are we within the profession. Then what do we need to do to support? So right now, the Nurses Action Coalition is really looking at human trafficking, and we're also looking at preventing gun violence because that impacts our workforce tremendously,
Yeah, absolutely.
tremendously. So altogether, we feel as if we are very comprehensive in providing services to nurses. So it's ideal to have that opportunity. Not a lot of associations have that completeness. We do.
Right. No. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's very impactful. It sounds like nurses can get involved in any aspect of nursing and then beyond that in some nonprofit management, and that's amazing. So, and I know early on we touched a little bit on climate. I mean, we've touched a lot on climate, which that's what people want to hear. They want to hear, I mean, what do I do? How do I face these challenges? And so I appreciate your honesty in delivering that information. But as we continue to face, some of these pressing concerns and challenges, what do you think? Is there a national stance? What would you suggest to other leaders in associations, nonprofits, of how they can face these uncertain times with regard to what to say, whether you say the actual DE and I or not, and how to approach it, how to maintain that inclusivity within their organizations on a national landscape. What would you suggest for those situations?
First of all, how long is this podcast?
Not long enough is what I'm guessing.
Okay,
So
let me give
what
you
is
the short answer.
give me a short answer, yeah.
I'll give you a short answer because this is a subject matter that we could talk about for days. I would like to say that the ANA is staying committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. The AACN, NLN, the Academy of Nursing is staying committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion being part of our healthcare challenge and staying committed to the code of ethics. You know, the ANA just released a new code of ethics and the book in February, I think, of this year. And it is more insightful and more prescriptive in how you can use it. The code
Wonderful.
of ethics, if every nurse used the code of ethics as their foundation, it would make it easier for them to make decisions and to know that they're on the right track. They also use the code of ethics as a tool to help organizations that they're working with to understand why we are committed to doing the right things all of the time. It's
Mm.
not it's not political.
Mm.
It's really about what are the needs of the patients, their families, and nurses, and how do we ensure that we can do that, not just for some, but for all. In the state of Kentucky, 95% of the nurses are Caucasian, and about 92% are female. So does that mean that those are the only people that we are going to serve? No.
Right.
It means that we will serve them and all best, because they are the people who need us, that challenge us, and we can help them too. We should help them too. It's not optional. It's not a vote on who you serve or who you should have in your workforce. It is a intentional effort to serve the people where they are and provide what they need.
Yes, absolutely. And I know I'll find a quote in there somewhere because I'm definitely going to quote you. Oh, yes. Um, but staying on workforce, and that's so important. Just a great takeaway from that is just align with our ethics, our nursing ethics. That we vow to keep those ethics when we're caring for others. And all of us at some point, I say this all the time, we will be a patient at one point or another in our lives.
Yes.
So just, remembering that when we're taking care of others, and others should remember that when they see a nurse. At some point in your life, you're going to need a nurse. So, hopefully they'll look at that with a great deal of respect. But while you're speaking on workforce, you brought up workforce. I think it's important. I'd love your insights on just kind of, what message or insight would you share about the workforce challenges that we have right now with nursing shortages, throughout the US, and retaining nurses or recruiting nurses? How can organizations like Kentucky Nurses Association positive change in this area? Like, what can we do to keep our nurses coming back and staying committed with all the challenges that they face?
That is a very complicated question with a very complicated solution. So I'm just going to provide a few suggestions. We know that retaining nurses is crucial. Mm-hmm. Recruiting is important, but we must retain the wisdom for nursing, for the profession. We must retain the wisdom. Mm-hmm. We need to make the work environment conducive to positive outcomes for the workforce as well as for the patients and their families. And what I mean by that is one of our biggest challenges in the United States right now is an unsafe work environment. Mm-hmm. In 2023, the KNA worked diligently to pass a bill with one of our legislators, Jason Nemes, to provide a bill that mandated workplace safety. If nurses do not feel safe, they will not stay. If nurses do not feel safe, they will not come. If nurses do not feel safe, they will not be nurses. So we were very proud of being able to get the workplace violence prevention bill passed, but we've hit a few snags. There were some amendments that were added that we were not aware of that basically gutted the bill. So we're back on that train. So for the next legislative session, we will be back at the table to discuss what we need to do to keep nurses safe. And I say nurses, but it is really, when we passed the bill, it was for all healthcare providers.
Healthcare. Mm-hmm.
Not just nurses. You see, when the environment becomes violent, they don't just target nurses. They target whoever's there. And so our goal is to make the environment safe for whoever is there. And so we'll be working in the interim before the next session with other organizations that support healthcare providers, physical therapists, respiratory therapists, physicians, hospital associates. So it is our role to be the collaborator in chief to make this happen. Because, 1 in 5 healthcare provider is assaulted in the workplace. 1 in 5. That's higher than policemen.
Yes.
Or firemen. How could that possibly be when we're there to help? Well, the focus hasn't been on how do we make it safe for those who have the knowledge, the skill, and the commitment to do their jobs. We have to get focused on. So that's a high
Absolutely.
priority for us. Very high priority.
No, I agree, and I'll be right there with you. Definitely, advocacy is one of my highest priorities, and clinician safety. It's a challenge because they're not approaching it as a priority, in my opinion. And I have to tell you, we've touched on so much, and I can lose track of time. You're like, how much time do we have on this podcast? We don't have a lot. And I've certainly enjoyed our talk and our time today. But before we wrap things up, I just wanted to know if you had any last words of wisdom or advice that you wanted to share with our listeners today.
I do. I would like to say that this advice is for the novice nurse as well as for the nurse with all the wisdom. And I would say, let's go back to the basics. Let's refocus on the code of ethics as our foundation. And if we stay focused on the code of ethics, and I'm not saying that you have the book, I'm saying that you've read the book and that you can use the book every day in how you are making decisions, how you are setting your priorities. So that would be number one. The second thing I would say, and it's in the book, but the second thing I would say is, how can we as nurses be more collaborative with other nurses? People ask me, well, I belong to a specialty organization. Do I need to belong to the KNA? And the answer is yes. Here's why.
Absolutely.
Here's why. The specialty organization, we need them because they can help us in terms of the specialty. But when it comes to something that impacts all nurses, for instance, implicit bias education, which impacts all nurses, you need an organization that will be the voice for every nurse, all nurses, all the time, no matter where they work, what they do, no matter what their role is. They're having an organization that is the voice is the best organization to belong to. So let's get focused on the code of ethics, and let's get focused on how we can work together as nurses. Our focus should not be on the bedside nurse against the leader that has the title of leader, against the educator that has the title of educator. But the focus must be on how we can collaborate to support each other. One of our biggest challenges in nursing is, how can nurses be nurses and not the ICU nurse or the nurse professor or the nurse CEO? You see, because the first thing I tell people when I meet them is that I'm a nurse.
Oh, thank you. So what I'm hearing, and thank you for those words of wisdom. What I'm hearing is that there's strength in numbers, and we definitely should continue to strengthen the nursing profession by collaborating. All of us, specialties and nursing associations that are general state-based associations, and also, to really hang in there. There's a need for nurses, a huge need. And, there we have it. You heard it directly from Delanor Manson, CEO of Kentucky Nurses Association. If you'd like to contact her or for more information about the Kentucky Nurses Association upcoming events, visit KentuckyNurses.org. Ms. Manson, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm trying to shorten this as much as possible, but there was some really nice raw conversation there that I loved having with you. Thank you for taking time to join the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great opportunity.
I love it. Thank you. We'll see you real soon at your annual gala and your conference. Can't wait to dress up and meet you. And to our listeners, this is just the start of some really strong A-list conversations and topics that really matter most on the podcast. So we hope that you'll join us next time on the Clinician Voice.